Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Crypto Hot Seat, the only interview show that matters in crypto. Brought to you just for a change by tokenmetrics.com. Today's a great day. We've got Cody Willard on the show. Cody is another one of these kind of multifaceted, has done a little bit of everything. Crypto's a big part of it. We're going to talk to him about investing in outer space. But Cody, thanks for joining us on the show today.
It's great to be here, Dylan.
What can you talk to us about? How did you get started? You got started in Bitcoin. 9 years ago, you were telling people to buy it conservatively when it was just $100. So you said 9 years ago you were telling people to be 1% in on Bitcoin at a great price.
You consider that conservative? 9 years ago, writing an article for the Wall Street Journal, out of the blue, telling people that they should put 1% of their money into this cryptocurrency thing that nobody even understood at the time. I will tell you, my editors did not think that was conservative. But yeah, 9 years later, I'm teasing you, obviously. 9 years later, a lot of people have more than 1% of their portfolio in a cryptocurrency or in many cryptocurrencies. But, and frankly, I don't think you should have, at this moment, a whole bunch of your money in crypto. Bitcoin is going to get hit along with a bunch of the rest of the crappy coins out there. 99.999% of the cryptos out there right now are fraudulent, stupid, or silly. So there's like a few hundred, maybe a few dozen that will be good. But most of them of this current batch going to zero.
So what's the rubric for appraising the 99.99% crap and the 0.1% worthwhile stuff?
Well, I mean, it's pretty simple most of the time. If you go and look at, say, Hex or I don't know, you start digging in on any crypto that is fraudulent, silly, or stupid, and it gets pretty clear when you're reading the white paper that it's convoluted, complicated, and probably for a reason that is not in your favor.
Gotcha. So, to what extent? What's it like to be a hedge fund guy who's into crypto? There are more and more of you out there. It feels like, and you've got some heavy hitters in your crypto club. Ray Dalio comes to mind.
I don't belong to any club. I just do want to say I'm anti-hedge fund, anti-Wall Street. I'm anti-Republicans. I'm anti-Democrats. I'm anti-any groupthink. I'm anti-libertarians. I'm my own guy. So I'm not a part of that club, but I will say this. Here's what I'm getting at. That, 3 years ago, it was impossible to really invest in crypto in a hedge fund because of the custodial issues.
Yeah.
When you have a Interactive Brokers account, a TD Ameritrade account, or a Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley account, you know that when you buy something in a stock or an option, it's being held and it's real and it exists. And that was not the case in crypto even just 3 years ago. But over the last 3 years, it's gone mainstream. And now I'm actually even about to. And the only other crypto that I do like right now besides Bitcoin and Ether would be helium. And I've owned helium now for about a year personally. And I'm actually just now about to be able to buy it in the hedge fund in the next few weeks.
Yep, very exciting. Yeah, anybody who's been with Token Metrics for a while knows that helium has been a long time favorite. So good on you. Good on you.
Well, look, helium changed everything for me. Bitcoin was great. I mean, for decades, even, I used to have a show on Fox, and I used to be Kudlow's sidekick on CNBC, and forever I talked about that we needed competing currencies to this fiat-controlled, central organized system that we have, in this socialized Republican Democrat regime country of ours. And, and it's worse in Venezuela or Iraq or even Russia, right? I mean, your currency is always being demolished and you spend your time trying to figure out how to turn your country's currency into something else. And so, look, I've been a Bitcoin believer for a long time because of the transparency and the limited supply. But, after all of these thousands of cryptos really started coming out and most of them fraudulent, silly, or stupid, I I got concerned that we were over. Like the Bitcoin / cryptocurrency phenomenon was going to die. And then helium came along. And helium created an entirely new incentivization structure, and incentive structure, I guess would be the right word. And what it enables people to do is, I have 2 helium miners because I immediately ordered them when I found out about helium back about a year ago. And what it enables you to do is you literally make cryptocurrency because you're facilitating a lo-fi or eventually a 5G network. And if you provide a service, you get paid for it in crypto called helium. And that created a wickified model where users like me generate an entire network for tracking people's keys and dogs, and eventually a 5G network. And that is an entirely new system. It's not like it's a corporation. It's not, it's not a not-for-profit. It's a profit-seeking industry. If you buy helium tokens or you invest in the company itself, you're seeking profits. But it's also providing a service to the world that now Verizon or T-Mobile or whoever wouldn't have to go out and build their own 5G network. You get the users to do it, and Dish Network is now partnered with Helium in order to use these user-generated networks.
Yeah, you may or may not be able to confirm the existence of a gray market for where people are trading access to downtown high-rise buildings for sake of getting their helium miners into like very high traffic areas and making the most money. There may or may not be a community of people that do that kind of thing.
I think I can read between the lines. And look, what that reminds me of, even a little bit, is years ago they were trying to figure out how to get fiber into high-rise buildings, right? And so there were companies that would literally just go in and negotiate, try to negotiate rights for giant high-rises to put fiber optic cable systems so that you'd have gigabit internet in your buildings. And there were people that made billions of dollars creating those companies. And I think, look, helium and Bitcoin and maybe a little bit of Ether are really the only 3 cryptos that I feel like are probably safe right now. And even they're not safe. Eventually, the SEC it'll probably happen after Hex and a bunch of these fraudulent, stupid, silly cryptos go to zero. But after they go to zero, then the SEC guys will write in, and they're going to be like, we're coming to save the day and protect you people from these scam artists and stupid fraudulent cryptos.
Yeah. So I've spoken to Richard Hart as an interview guest on this show.
So have I. He
cool.
He tried to, what do you call it? Like gotcha me on some interview.
Yes. He's good at media theatrics stuff for
fine.
sure.
Like, I mean, I look. It's a fraud.
He thinks he deserves a Nobel Prize for Hex.
He's going to. I would expect he's going to prison at some point.
So what does that? How does that shake out? Like, assuming your theory there is correct, let's assume there's some case there.
When this thing's already down 99.99%, or a bunch of these fraudulent, stupid, silly cryptos have all gone to zero or almost to zero, and all these millions of crypto investors in the United States and around the world, but the United States is for the SEC, right? So these guys are going to lose 99% of their money. And then the SEC will show up and send out cease and desist letters to Richard and the guys at Helium even. And I think basically anything but Bitcoin is going to get cease and desist letters. Ether's even going to get it too. And they'll have maybe 6 months or 18 months to pay a fine and get in compliance if it's an actual real cryptocurrency that's not fraudulent, stupid, or silly. Mm-hmm. And those fraudulent, stupid, or silly ones will then truly go to zero and get shut down and not be allowed to trade at all. But in the meantime, Bitcoin, Ether, Helium, and even the good ones are probably going to get smashed. I mean, the day that the SEC actually starts cracking down on fraudulent cryptos, Bitcoin will probably be down 50 or 60%. And then you start buying it again. I still own Bitcoin personally. I don't have any in the hedge fund right now.
Got you. Uh, so if we're all, we've still got legacy markets very much relevant today. They're not at all like being defeated by blockchain technology or whatever like that. We're not buying stocks using blockchain enabled systems. Do you think we're heading that direction though? Do you think this stuff has a certain inevitability about it?
I wrote an
Uh,
article for Market Watch maybe about a month or two ago, and it talks about how the DAO, the decentralized autonomous organizations
yeah.
that we use to create cryptos. I created my own crypto about that is designed to clean up space debris, and we have no founders tokens. We're giving away 100% of them, and eventually those will start trading. We'll get to that in a minute, of course, but what we're I do think that organizational structures will be impacted over years and certainly decades. In 20 years, there will be trillion-dollar DAO organizations with cryptocurrencies that are incentivizing people to do things that didn't exist before. And so I think your question was, like, does stock ownership get impacted by crypto, and do other assets get impacted by crypto ownership? And yes, I think, even like you saw, I'm sure the Denver Broncos now are up for sale, and some DAO is trying to figure out a way to get money raised to buy at least a part of the Broncos. I don't think that's going to happen. They're still too early. But in 10 years, yeah, there will be, F1 teams that'll be completely funded by a crypto DAO organization.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like they're off to I don't disagree with you at all, but it does seem like they're off to a rocky start. I guess I'm thinking mostly of Constitution DAO kind of famously blundering the Constitution.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree with you 100%.
what went wrong there? Why shouldn't that have been
Well,
such a home run for DAOs in general?
Well, if you go look at how they actually, again, if you look at the way people design these things, the beautiful thing about cryptocurrency is that you set up the rules openly and transparently before the airdrop, before the tokens start going, right? And so, if or whatever the ICO, however they end up being issued, you set up those rules beforehand, and if they're transparent, fair, and virtuous, then your crypto is going to work. Bitcoin, transparent, fair, and virtuous. It's going to work. Ether, transparent, fair, and virtuous. It's going to work. Helium, same thing. But so many of these things are just stupid, silly. I mean, you start trying to parse through the code and look at the rules on the Constitution one specifically, and if you put your money into that constitutional DAO, you didn't actually have ownership. You had the right to vote on maybe what would happen to that piece of paper that the Constitution, it's one of the original constitutions and stuff. And so, but you didn't have ownership. You didn't actually own anything. You just had the right to vote for what to do with a piece of paper. That's not virtuous. That's stupid. That's silly. That's maybe not fraudulent, but it's stupid and silly. It's not going to last. It's not going to work.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Huh. How do you divide crypto investing as opposed to legacy investing? Like, if assuming I have some monthly budget for investing, how much of that is allocated for stocks? How much of that is allocated for crypto?
Well,
Is it a waste to allocate it for stocks?
no. It's a waste to allocate it for crypto right now.
Okay.
So I would very much caution against putting any money into crypto other than maybe helium right now. Like, the only crypto I would be willing to buy right now, even as a long-term investment, is helium, for the reasons I just mentioned. You're going to get smashed at some point when the SEC actually does something with these fraudulent, stupid, silly cryptos.
Yeah. But I'm so what? Okay, here's a question for you then. What is of these fraudulent, stupid, silly cryptos? What is the biggest one that you think belongs in that group? I guess that question is designed to fling up a little bit of mud here.
Yeah, sure. Well, I've mentioned it
What's
already.
what's the thing
the
that
only
you
one
think
I've
is a
actually ended up
scam?
spending any time digging in is
Okay.
the Hex one, because I was asked to go. One of my long-term followers, I have a service called tradingwithcody.com. Most of my people have been with me for 20 or 25 years. I've been writing this newsletter.
Oh, wow.
I charge $1,200 a year, and people have been with me for a very long time. And one of these guys who's been with me for 15 or 20 years asked me to go on his podcast crypto YouTube thing, and I didn't realize it was all Hexican thing. He is a Hexican. He is all into the hex.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm studying. I listened. I was literally driving to the eye doctor 2 hours away to go on the day I had this podcast. I didn't know. I had no idea. I do this stuff all the time, right? I used to be almost famous on Fox and CNBC and stuff, so I'm always being invited. I show up like on things like this. I'm in Austin, Texas right now at a rental house talking to you. I was driving, so I was researching hex on the drive, not very smartly, but I am. This is crappy. What? Huh? This can't be real. What? The guy is actually getting more ETH. Wait, there's this originating account. Wait. Every time someone has to sell and get screwed by the penalties in the hex, he gets half of it? Wait, some of this, maybe I'm wrong. No, and you just keep digging, and it's like just horrible. Like, I don't understand how anyone can, if you do 5 minutes of research on hex, you find plenty of ammunition that explains why it is enriching Richard Hart and not you.
Yeah.
And that type of stuff is bad. It's horrible. Like, it's penny stock promotion, but it's a multi-billion-dollar cryptocurrency somehow. And so that's the one I know. If I could make money creating a fund that would short all of these shit coins, these fraudulent, stupid, silly cryptos, I would do it. And then I would spend time studying all of the crappy ones and figuring out the best ones to short and bet against and make money when they crash. But there is, like I mentioned earlier, there's not a way of doing that right now. In crypto, you can finally buy helium. In hedge funds, you can actually finally buy crypto like helium, ether, and Bitcoin, because you have some custodial belief, some actual belief in the custodial issues. There is no way for me to figure out how to borrow a bunch of crappy shit coins from retail investors, sell them, and then one day buy them back when they're worthless and give them back to those retail investors, which is what shorting a stock or a crypto means.
Yeah. What's the most esoteric kind of trade you've ever engaged with yourself, or whether you've done it yourself or you're aware of somebody making like kind of an esoteric trade, hyper leveraged XYZ kind of a thing? I hope that question makes some sense.
It does. Look, I'm a revolution investor, and I try to find companies that don't just, disrupt. I want things that change the world, that revolutionize everything. But I'm actually pretty conservative. Like, I've owned Apple since it was at 20 cents a share in 2003. I've owned Facebook since it was at 20, right after it crashed after its IPO. Google I bought on the day of its IPO at 45. I still own all of these. And the reason I bought them was because they were cheap. I look at a model, I go, Google's going to grow a bunch over the next 5 years. This is 2004. And it was like, dude, this company's going to be doing tens of billions of dollars in revenue in just a few years. And right now you can buy it for tens of billions of dollars of value. So I don't have an esoteric, levered up, wild. I'm a long-term, steady revolution investor.
Yeah, I confess I'd never actually had heard that term revolution investor. How does that compare with value investor, for example?
I made it up.
Okay, fair enough.
I have there's an ad in my office. If I was in my office, I could show you. I got a picture of the Wall Street Journal back in 2007 when we launched the Revolution Investing newsletter. And what it is this. I think there's two simultaneous revolutions happening in our world. And they're tied in. They're technologically driven, right? Communications driven. You and I being able to have this interview from a rental house in Austin while you're where you are, and on this app that I didn't even have in my phone until you invited me to do this today.
Yeah.
So that is what you're trying to find. You want to find the Googles and the Apples and the Facebooks. Tesla is another one I bought 3 years ago and made it my biggest position. I still own it. And, it's up 20-fold since then. Those are what you're looking for. Yeah. And look, I've made mistakes, right? Like, I bought lots of stocks along the way that didn't go up. So I don't want to make it sound like I've got this perfect track record or something, obviously. But that's what you're trying to do, is find companies that revolutionize the world with their technology. Most of the time, it's a platform of some sort, but you want to make sure the product itself is revolutionary, and then if the company is good, you do it. There's a simultaneous revolution happening, of course, around the world, with transparency too, and market-driven interactions like this, where we can all learn more and eventually realize that the Republicans and Democrats are both horrible. And we change that paradigm. We do realize that fiat currencies are evil, and we're changing that. And that happens over time.
Yeah.
And so we are revolutionizing. We're going to become a much more transparent, peaceful, better country, and hopefully even world, as transparent, virtuous blockchain and other platform technologies penetrate this world and actually end up having critical mass. And now 3 billion people have access to this video.
Yeah.
It gets published.
Right on. Could you talk to us a little bit about tradingwithcody.com? What's it like to have put out that newsletter for as long as you have?
It's what's neat about my newsletter is that it really is just sort of my track record of what I write. Like when I study stocks or the economy or individual cryptos or whatever, I write about it. I make notes, and then it forces me for years. I've been doing this for decades now. For decades, every time I do any meaningful trade or investment or analysis at all, I publish it for record. And so then I can go back 15 years later and be like, you remember when I was talking about this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. And I can actually see what my analysis was. I can learn what mistakes I've made. I can find what great calls I've made and try to figure out some of the patterns that actually make a great call versus a horrible one. And that's what the Trading with Cody newsletter is, simply me telling you what I'm looking at and or when I do a trade. And most of my trading is actually a misnomer. It's investing with Cody.
Yeah. Great. What's something that what kinds of major misconceptions do you find yourself having to constantly clarify about crypto in particular? What's something that everybody seems to get wrong?
Well, that's interesting because there's two factions, right? I mean, there's the Luddites who think it's all scam, fraud, stupid, and then there's the hardcore true believers that just literally, 6 months ago or a year ago, when I visit my friends in New York who had suddenly become crypto believers, and even blue collar friends who were suddenly turned a few $100s into 10,000 or something. And they were pretty sure that we were entering in a new paradigm of economic rules, and that the old rules of how supply and demand, for example, didn't apply anymore. And I think that's a major stupid, silly, fraudulent belief to start getting into. Like, again, like if you have a cryptocurrency that could be controlled and printed by an insider, that's not going to work out for you. I don't care if it is a crypto. I don't care what the rules they say there are. If the guy's controlling it internally, you're going to get screwed. And that type of, look, 99.99% of the cryptos out there are fraudulent, stupid, or silly. And I think that, especially for your audience, is what I should be saying. That is the common misconception, is that out of the 17 or 18,000 cryptos out there, that even half of them or most of them are going to work. No, literally there will be dozens or hundreds out of 18,000 that survive. The rest are going to zero and are going to wipe out every single cent or Satoshi that you invested in them.
Yeah, a scary thought. I'll say that not only because a lot of our audience is retail crypto investors, but because I've got enough money that I would notice it if it disappeared overnight. I've got exactly that amount tied up in crypto.
And I do this for a living. I talk to people all day, every day. Not just running the hedge fund, but for years I've just sort of give casual, what I call deep dive analysis. So we
Sure.
talk to someone like you, and we're like, let's, how much real estate do you own? Do you own your house or you rent it? Do you have debt on your credit cards or do you actually have savings? Do you have millions in the bank or you got hundreds of thousands of dollars of stocks? I try to get an overall understanding of sort of someone's work-life balance, risk-reward scenarios, and even how much risk tolerance they have in things. And I will tell you, hearing you say that right now, you would lose a lot of sleep. You will lose a lot of sleep if and when that crypto comeuppance happens.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think you got too much crypto. You probably need to sell half,
I'm
bro.
receptive to this. I'm
You probably
receptive to
need to
this.
sell half. Just take something off. Take 10% off. At least
Yeah,
start
yeah.
getting out. Just know, look, the FOMO and greed factor is real, but the fear is not there right now. The fear of losing money. It's a fear of missing
Uh-huh.
out. And I'm telling you, you should not fear missing out. You should fear losing everything. This is the moment to fear losing everything. The next time crypto truly crashes, when you have a sector-wide wipeout and you see these 99% drops across the board in this stuff, and it's coming, that's the
Yeah.
day you get aggressive. That's the day you start getting aggressive. Then we start buying. But I sure think we're on the sell side of things, not the buy side of things right now.
If you're this bearish about altcoins, then I shudder to think what you have to say about NFTs.
Yeah, yeah. Look, so 99.9999999% of the NFTs out there are fraudulent, stupid, or silly right now.
Yeah.
But it's not that the NFT concept is fraudulent, stupid, or silly. It's just too early, and it's happening in the midst of a fraud frenzy, bubble, greed-filled FOMO shit show in crypto, and so NFTs have their own bubble that's going to be horrible. Like, at least when Bitcoin started, there was nothing like it. NFTs are just
Uh-huh.
right in the Bitcoin bubble. And eventually NFTs, call it 5 or 10 years, NFTs will probably matter somewhat. But yeah, if you're buying, the ape stuff, sorry.
Well, what's on your radar looking forward? What do we have? What's coming up? What does the future hold for Cody Willard here?
Space. Let's talk space for a minute, okay?
Yeah,
First, I'll talk about my space crypto, and then
yeah.
we'll just talk about investing in space in general. Like Skittles, SKTLS.com. Sky's the limit is where this comes from. SKTLS.com. This crypto is called Skytle, SKTL. And we're not trading yet. We will be airdropping on Space Day, the first Friday of May 6th, I think it is this year. And it costs you nothing to register. It costs you nothing to get the airdrop. You don't have to stake anything. You don't have to give us your email address. We do verify that you are a United States or Canadian citizen, so that we don't run into any sanctions issues with people in Iran or Russia trying to get this crypto. But look, we're airdropping it to the general public. 1/3 of all tokens that will ever be printed are being given away. 1/2 of all cryptos that are of the tokens that will ever be printed are given away on the first day. Half of which go to the people who register for the free airdrop, and half of which go into a fund that will every year donate 10% of its tokens to companies or organizations or governments that are dedicated to cleaning up space debris. There's thousands, there's literally millions of pieces of bolts and junk and stuff flying around the planet at 17,000 miles per hour. And you've probably seen these headlines where, like, this International Space Station has to move sometimes to keep from being hit from space debris. Look, we're going to solve world hunger if we get to space cheaply. If we can keep dropping the cost of going to space cheaply and getting these incredible technologies and satellites and x-rays and video satellites circling the globe, we'll solve world hunger. We're going to make the world a better place. People can grow more food, track things better, the logistics get better, everything gets better, the world gets more efficient. But that's not going to happen if there's space debris flying around at 17,000 miles an hour and building every year. So someone has got to figure out a way to tackle it. And the reason I love cryptos and DAOs and helium specifically, because it helped me figure out a way to create an incentive system through the DAO, through the crypto, that is based 100% around doing a social good through profit motive, i.e. cleaning up social space debris through a cryptocurrency that early adopters can hopefully make money on.
Right. So how does that, what practical shape does that take? How are people cleaning up stuff in space?
We're very early, okay? So Elon, for example, talked recently about how he could open up a hatch door on the side of the starship and just go by the bunch of the space debris and let it go into that hatch and then close the doors and then send it out towards the next galaxy out there. There's another company that's trying to figure out how to actually take any of the aluminum that's flying around out there. A lot of that junk is aluminum from satellites that have been smashed. And he's going to try to figure out how to use that for fuel in order to actually move things around and move around in there. I think that one's far-fetched, frankly, to be clear. That's what this fund is for. No one's got a great idea yet how to tackle the space debris problem, but it's getting worse every time anybody shoots anything up to space. And there's a risk that another satellite gets smashed every time there's another satellite, every time there's another rocket sent, anything that goes to space, there's a risk it creates more space debris, and then it hits other space debris and creates more space debris. And if we don't do something about it, in 5 or 10 years, we're not getting off the planet anymore, even on Starship.
Yeah. Spooky thought.
So go to Skittles.com. Can I just mention one more time?
Yeah, please plug away. Yeah, plug away.
Yeah, SKTLS.com. There's free registration for the airdrop. And, look, I don't know if there will ever be much value in this thing, but I will tell you it's going to start trading on T0, for example, has talked to us, and they think we're a virtuous, clean token, and we can join the handful of tokens that people on T0 right now, an actual exchange where you can buy things with your money, an actual dollar. It's probably going to have Skittles on it the day it opens. It'll take a few weeks. But look, there are going to be places. We've partnered with a lot of space companies and space organizations. And, if you're an early adopter and if you believe in space, if you're a crypto early adopter and you believe in space, you're a space enthusiast, you got nothing to lose. Literally, it'll take you 30 seconds, maybe 3 minutes of your time to go for the airdrop. And if that's too expensive, then God bless you. You're a busy, valuable person.
Well, perfect. Let's wrap it up there. Our guest today has been Mr. Cody Willard of tradingwithcody.com and of Skittles.com, SKTLS.com. Cody, thanks for taking a minute to talk to us about space and crypto, man.
Dylan, can I just mention before you go?
Yeah.
I do a lot of these, random things like this where you and I ended up doing this. This was fascinating. Your questions were grounded.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm glad this is captured for the record. I appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, right. I didn't wait till we were off. Yeah. Hey, great job, Dylan. Love to meet you. Do this again sometime. Peace.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you, man. Till the next one. Bye-bye.